Good afternoon, 6-4 parents. Mr. Hagedorn here. Real quick announcement. Next week, a normal 5-day week, but that following week on March 5th, that was originally a school day. That has been changed to a teacher work day, so kids will not have school on March 5th. Not next week, but the following week. Right? Math 6, we started our Unit 4 study guide number 2 today. That's on dividing fractions. Dividing mixed numbers and fractions. So we'll finish that study guide up on Monday. We will take our quiz on that on Tuesday. And then we will start our Unit 6, which is going to be algebra and equations. We're going to start with expressions, and solving those using some substitution and talking about exponents next week, right? In Math 6 Plus, we are going to continue our Unit 7.2. This is our second 7th grade unit of the year. It's about proportions and taking ratios like we did in 6th grade and turning those ratio tables into equations and finding the constant of proportionality, which is just a real fancy way of saying the slope of a graph. All right, so we're going to continue that next week. We will have our study guide on Thursday, and our quiz will be on Friday with that next week. All right, have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday.
All right, 6-4 families. We talked briefly on this video last week about kids grading each other's work. It's the only thing we did not get to this week. So we're going to be starting on Monday with the kids talking about they're going to be grading each other's projects. We're going to do a little self-assessment, a little peer assessment. And then I'm going to assess it. We're going to see how close or far those 3 grades are away, even though we're all grading the same thing. And then Tuesday through Thursday, we're going to be mapping earthquakes and volcanoes that are active and currently going on across the globe. We're going to see if there's any trend lines in those earthquakes and volcano spots. And then we're going to focus a little bit more on volcanoes on Friday and into next week. And then we're going to wrap up this plate tectonic unit with a focus on earthquakes next week after that. Does that make sense? I don't know. Either way, it's been a long week. Have a good weekend. See you Monday.
I heard earthquakes and volcanoes, so focus there.
Yes.
Now, let's talk real quickly about language arts. We're continuing to read the book Flush. We read chapter 8 today. We'll continue on. So we're about halfway through the book at this point. We'll continue on with reading Flush and answering questions, dealing with the author's point of view and character's point of view. We will also take a step away from Flush a little bit next week as we're starting to read some articles that are written about our author, Carl Hiaasen, and find out a little bit about his point of view and how geography influences authors' point of view. So that's a little bit about what we're going to be doing in language arts in the coming week. In social studies, we've moved into our unit on economics. So we've been talking about scarcity. We've been talking about the kinds of resources, so capital resources and human resources and natural resources. We've been looking a little bit at just kind of the basics of what an economy is. And then today we just barely kind of scratched the surface of the 4 economic systems. So we're going to start looking at market systems, mixed economies. We're going to be looking at command systems and the traditional markets. We'll be looking at that starting next week and then get into some of the history. And so we'll be talking about bartering. We'll be talking about ancient taxes. We'll be talking about the trade networks like the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean and that kind of thing. That's what we'll be going in social studies going forward. So that's what we're working on. Hopefully you had a lovely week and a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.